In my trend following account, when volatility is really high, my trades actually go really well. Or you can see, if we let the camera focus on there, basically you can see we closed a bunch of profits, and this is All right, so I just got to the office. I pulled up my charts. I've got a GBPUSD trade that I'm looking to take. Basically, this is a breakout kind of concept or setup. I'm looking to see there's a major level of resistance right now. Price is moving to the upside, but we kind of pinned at this certain point, and now I'm looking to see if we can catch the break. I'll be long on the trade. I'll jump over the charts and I'll show you what I'm thinking. So GBPUSD here, I'm taking a look at the 15-minute chart. This is a shorter term chart than usual, but I want to talk a little bit about this momentum that we see here happening on the pound dollar right now. So we have this nice move to the upside. You can see our moving averages are kind of lined up nicely. And what I'm looking to do is basically if price breaks through the daily high here that we printed, price came up here and pinned this little level here earlier on in the New York session. We kind of tagged that area and then found resistance. Now we're kind of consolidating here. So we have a back and forth price action movement right now. And the big idea here is basically if price starts to break through that daily high, I think we have a chance, or a pretty good chance, right? A probability that we could see a continuation to kind of break and continue through that major level of resistance. So the idea here is, again, looking for the breakout and continuation. You might be saying, well, it looks like you're buying high, but the idea here is basically, yes, technically I'm buying high, but I'm looking for the breakout, the momentum of this market to continue so that I could hopefully catch some moves. So I've got my stop just underneath the structure here. So I've kind of identified this level here. If price breaks through there, I've got my stop there locked in. I'm using a relatively small position size due to the fact that right now there's a lot of stuff in the headlines that is causing a lot of volatility. So for the most part, keeping things kind of under management by keeping my position size very small on this particular account. We'll see if we get a setup here. And regardless, I still like the setup for the breakout consolidation kind of idea here. So we'll see if price can get up there, then I'll be looking to get long.
So at the time of making this video, there is a lot of fears going around in the market. We actually had the S&P drop by, I think it was like 15%. The market is crazy right now, and there's all sorts of volatility. So I mentioned with one of my trades that I'm taking that I reduced my position size. And this is just one way that I personally kind of handle these sort of situations. But I want to speak about these sort of situations. The thing about markets is there's always something that's like looming around the corner, right? For a long time we had Brexit. You know, a lot of the time we have talks about a potential recession, right? You always have these things that are lingering and they're kind of on the back burner. And what I found is that a lot of times the fear itself of these events comes and it goes, right? We've had times in the past where significant news or attacks or anything comes into the news and it causes this initial big reaction, this big spike of fear. And I think that there is actually a potential trade to be taken on the back of some of those fears, because sometimes the fears that are brought into the market, this creates opportunity for the less emotional and more dedicated traders, right? So think about it. A lot of people struggle, myself included, and especially when I was a newer trader, a lot of people struggle with keeping their emotions intact. Well, you can kind of see it in the price action. You can see it in the moves when you have these big news alerts that come out and they scare markets and everybody is panicking and you see some really big moves. Well, there's actually some profit to be made, in my opinion, from those sort of times if you can keep a level head and if you can stick to your plan.
We got an upgrade on audio now. Now you don't have to be in the comments.
Is that on? I guess this is just clip anywhere, I guess?
Yeah, that's probably good. I'm gonna hear it.
Cool.
There we go.
Got my little mic on. What's going on, traders? Welcome back to another video here. Today we are in the office talking a little bit about what's going on in the world of markets, currency trading, stock market trading. It's all going crazy right now. We have a lot of volatility. If we take a look at the chart, you can see we've been watching the Euro USD specifically, which has really been a crazy, crazy pair right now. We actually called for a top, or at least a short-term pullback here along this level of resistance. So if we actually draw in this level, if I grab a rectangle, you can see this long-term level actually did end up holding, just as we had done recently. We talked about it in a video about how the Euro, there's a pretty good chance that I thought this level would hold as a resistance point. We saw a really nice sell-off there. Yesterday's bar moving 160 pips to the downside. Very, very nice bearishness. And I think it actually has the room to continue, maybe even down to this level that we talked about here on that video. Now, I also want to talk about a little bit about the SPX 500. This is the S&P. We see this market going crazy as well. We see a lot of sell pressure right now in the US stock market. You can see even if we take it to the 4-hour chart, we see a lot of volatility here as the markets are selling off. And one thing I was pointing out to Will when we first got into the office is look at how all during this time, right, we had kind of a quiet market environment, right? We just had this slow chugging. And then when the bears settled in, when we started to see real selling, the movement speed of this chart is crazy. We see so much volatility in the markets. Now, it can happen both up and down. As we actually saw back in 2019, or sorry, end of 2018, early 2019, right? Look at this. We had major sell-off and we saw a major recovery or bounce back in the stock market. So to me, I'm still bullish overall on stocks. Of course, I could be wrong about this, but I am bearish on the euro and mostly bullish on the stock market. So we'll see what we get there going forward. We basically want to make sure that we're giving them what they need to see. So like a lot of times, new traders, they're struggling to find a group of people that are actually beneficial to their trading journey, right? There's so many spammy chats out there. We don't offer that. What we do is we offer a really refined community for traders. So we want to illustrate that in our kind of processes. So in the newsletter, and we want to show people the value that's inside in a not in a super salesy way. That's not really what we're about. We're about really showing our value. And we can also track the click-through rate. So if they're seeing the value, then we continue to show that value. Same like how when Will and I are looking at the videos, right? We're looking at the videos and we're talking about basically, where are we losing people in the video? If we're talking about something that's not super beneficial to traders, usually you guys let us know here on YouTube through where the click-through rate drops off or where people are leaving the video. We can actually see that in the video. So as a content creator and as our job here at A1 Trading, like we're trying to bring the best value to traders on YouTube and through our services. So just some things we're working on. Okay, so we're taking a look here. This is finviz.com. If you don't know about this site, it's a free tool that is super helpful. You can see it gives us kind of an overview of all the different markets and what's going on with them. So like right now, you can see we got the Dow Jones Industrial trading down 3.87%, the S&P down, of course, also NASDAQ down, Russell, we've got all the different charts, and you get the VIX, which is trading like crazy. We can also take a look at Forex, which from the Forex side of things, it's looking pretty ugly too. We've got dollar yen sold off quite a bit here. You can see AUD/USD is catching a rise, which is kind of cool. We're on the long side of that, so that's kind of nice. We've also got gold, which is trading. You can see we can pull up gold and see that we're down for the day. I personally prefer TradingView, but in terms of a scanner, FinViz has some pretty awesome free tools. And you've even got crypto, which by the looks of it is not too pretty. You can see Bitcoin is down quite a bit. Actually, what's interesting, I will add about Bitcoin right now. So we've talked about risk on and risk off investments. Like we've talked about how during times of panic, typically people flee from risk on investments. Well, Bitcoin is a pretty risk on investment. And so actually there's a lot of interesting correlation right now between Bitcoin dropping and US equities dropping, right? You invest in a stock like Tesla, that's a risky investment to some degree compared to something like a long-term bond or that sort of thing. So you have riskier markets being sold off and Bitcoin is trading with them. We've actually seen a significant drop from the $10,000 range all the way down to $7,800, which is a steep sell-off, but definitely interesting that those two markets are trading hand to hand. Now, stock markets, when they dip and they cause a lot of volatility, we actually see that translate over into the currency market as well. Again, going back to the Forex and the futures, right? You have these markets selling off quite substantially. Well, you also see a lot of volatility coming into the other markets, right? We've got crude oil selling off like crazy, right? We've got a significant drop in oil. We've got gold moving like crazy. Again, Bitcoin, pound yen just going nuts. We've got New Zealand dollar rising a lot. You can see the currencies kind of are impacted by the volatility that comes in through the stock market as well.
Speaking of Tesla, by the way.
Yes, sir.
You just got you some Tesla?
Yeah, let's talk about that. You're right. So I actually just bought Tesla. The symbol is TSLA. So I don't know if you may or may not know, but I am a pretty big bull on this company. I really like Tesla, and I think that this company has a lot of potential going into the future. Now, it may seem like this price is high, and you're probably right. It is very, very high, and I just entered a position here. Now, I'm not necessarily trading this, so this is not a short-term, intraday sort of, and nothing like that. I'm actually investing some money in Tesla right now, and if it drops, then I'll be happy to buy some more. Now, that is kind of averaging down, and typically, that's a topic that some people love, some people hate. It's up for debate. But I like the idea of buying a stock that I like at a good price. We've seen a significant drop. Actually, if we zoom in here, take a look, you can see we've actually got a drop on Tesla right now of about 35%. So technically, I'm getting at a 35% decrease or discount from the recent high at 970. So what that would mean is that if price decides to rally all the way back up, I'd make 51% on my investment, which personally I believe that the reward potential on buying a stock like Tesla right now is greater than the risk, right? So of course I am taking risk, that's in every trade or investment, but I think that the upside potential of owning Tesla stock right now is greater than the potential risk that's involved. Cool stuff. At least if you got killed by that, it was a Tesla, I think. It was a beautiful car. Right? As you guys may or may not know, I actually worked from home like 100%. It actually was not like super effective for me as a trader or even as like running my business. It was really tough to be like at home all the time because it's almost distracting to an extent of all the other different luxuries. If your home is your workplace, for me it's nice to be able to kind of come into the city and kind of work in a beautiful spot like this. I can meet up with Will and Julie and do some work here. So for me, it's about like finding your comfort zone. And a lot of times as traders, right, we have these kind of times where we have our ideal situation, right? Sometimes people like to trade certain times of the day. Sometimes people like to essentially stick to one currency pair or trade gold exclusively, right? It's about finding what makes you comfortable as a trader, sticking to it, and doing more of it. Or you can see, if we let the camera focus on there, basically you can see we closed a bunch of profits, and this is a smaller account where I'm kind of testing a concept. You can see we've got $55, $19.80, $15.80, $49.69, $48.63, $51, and then we could see $24 the profit there, and then you can see I actually transferred this money out into something else. So this actually, I transferred this money to another account. I'm basically going to build a bigger account where I do this on a bigger scale. But you can see even with a small account, sometimes riding those trends is really, really profitable. Again, $55 on a relatively smaller account, something around $2,500 in the account. So a really nice little profit there overall. You can see actually at the bottom here, we've got $275 worth of profit on the account. And again, it's a smaller account. So a lot of times traders who are newer, they ask, well, how can I double and triple my small account? And the answer is you really can't. $275 is not going to be an easy double or flip, a double or triple on the account, right? So it's a $2,500, $300, $3,000 account, something in that range, and the account gained $275, and it was actually a really good gain. That was actually one of the best weeks on that account that I've had. But so many traders, again, they're looking for that quick and fast profit and doubling their account. Whereas really the power of trading is understanding that, okay, $275 gain, compounding and building that and doing that again and again over time. That's what's going to slow and steadily grow an account into something significant, right? So that's something like a 10% almost increase on the account, because we had a really good week, right? Not every week is going to be so good. And when I get onto a bigger account, I'm hoping to do similar returns. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm building basically a bigger account where I'm going to add that money and some other money into one bigger account where I'm going to start trading this trend following concept on a bigger scale. Let's try it again. So this week, as I mentioned, my trend following account has done really well. We've had a really good week on the trend following account, not so much on the reversal account. And typically that's what you're going to see, is you're going to see during like the good times, you're going to see when things are slow and steady, increasing. A lot of times reversals happen. They're back and forth and the market is kind of cooperating. And then during the trend following times or the high volatility times, you get some really big runs. Like we saw the pound pairs go crazy, we saw some of the euro pairs go crazy, and if you're on the right side of those and you can hold on to the trades, that's basically what happened on that account I just showed you, right? We're up $275 on that small account, basically just holding on to the winners as they run and cutting off the losers short. Right? So that works when it works and it doesn't when it doesn't. So there's no perfect strategy. And again, 10% per week is not actually something that I think is sustainable. I think it's really, really difficult to do. The best I've ever seen a trader do consistently for a long term is like 10% per month, right? 10% per month is phenomenal. That is absolutely amazing because you compound that over years, you're talking some serious, serious money. But 10% a week, we just had a fantastic week. It's not every single week, but you can do that sort of stuff if you're sticking to your plan. And sometimes there's some really good stuff that comes out of sticking from your plan, as you could see on my relatively smaller kind of test account.
So we're reorganizing here.
It's not going well. I'll say that much. We're a mess. We came into the office today and we realized we didn't like the layout. It just wasn't working. We had to break it off with the old desk setup. So we're figuring it out one piece at a time.
So now it's a game of Tetris now.
It's a game of Tetris.
Basically.
What's up, traders? Here we are back in the office. We just spent some time tediously putting together the office. We decided we didn't love the way the office looked, so we ended up changing the desks around, and I think it looks much better now. Got a little bit more room here to kind of branch out and hang out in the office, which is nice. Things are crazy right now in the markets. We've been watching it all throughout the time. We've actually seen, I was doing a little bit of a study, the S&P 500, which is the stock market, right? The US stock market has dropped. It dropped 20% in something like 13 days. The last time that we saw in the 2008 recession, we dropped by 20% in the course of like 80 to 100 days, something in that range. It was a lot longer time to get down 20%. So the fact that we're down in 20% in just a matter of something like 10 to 15 days is absolutely wild. This is a crazy time to be trading. We actually had a question, Will, remember you mentioned this morning, we said somebody asked like new traders, should they be jumping in?
Yeah, should they be trading
right
now?
So Will brought that up to me. They said, somebody said, should I be starting to trade right now? And I would say that this is a great time to be sitting on the sidelines and learning, okay? Because people are losing their minds, they're losing their entire bank accounts and their trading accounts in this time because of the volatility, okay? Because if you're long right now on stocks or you're trading against the dollar yen, which is like if you're buying the dollar yen and it's going down like crazy because of all the volatility, it can be a very scary time. I know I've had a lot of people who have reached out saying they've been really struggling with their trading accounts because of the high volatility. You have to understand that when we have markets, there's like a rubber band, right? Volatility is kind of like a rubber band. You have the market is at a certain tension in the rubber band, right? Well, when we have crashes or we have big, massive movements or the ECB comes out and says something really serious about the euro, that rubber band gets stretched way further and the volatility of that rubber band is much looser, meaning there's just big swings here and there and all over the place. So you have to keep that in mind when you're a trader, especially a short-term trader, right? Because this volatility can all of a sudden just be crazy. We can have just big movements in the market. So it is something to think about. So if you're trading during these times, if you're a short-term active trader, especially if you're something like a intraday scalper or day trader, you have to be careful. So that's some things to think about in these crazy times. So brokers provide liquidity so that if you, again, like if I had $1 in my pocket, right? If I had $1 in my pocket, which I don't because I'm broke right now, the market's killing me. But just kidding. But if I had $1 in my pocket, then the value of that US dollar would fluctuate very small, right? Like it's not like it's going to massively lose value overnight in most cases. Sometimes we see bigger movements than others, but the idea is that if you have $1 in your pocket, it doesn't move that much. So if you want to trade the fluctuations in value of a US dollar or a euro or a GBP or pound, right, you have to actually have a lot of that money to see significant dollar movements or value movements. So if you had $1 million US dollars and the price of or the value of a US dollar went up by 1%, and you were long, then you had a really big increase in value. So what a broker does is they basically lend you or leverage you a lot of money so that you can trade the differentiate, like the movement in price. You can win or lose that amount. If you are wrong and you lose that amount, then you owe it back to the broker, essentially. So they're just providing like the liquidity, the leverage, so that a small person with not a zillion bucks can trade the movements in the major currencies. So on this Doomsday Presentation, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
No, but we are taking a look at the spread of a certain something that is in the news. I can't say the word because I will unfortunately get demonetized, and we're going to work way too hard in this video for that to happen, so fingers crossed. This is a map of where the news is spreading in the US right now. You can actually see you've got a whole bunch of cases up here in the northeast area. You've got some stuff going on where we are at in Atlanta, which of course is a little concerning. We're still here in the office. Who knows if that will change? We'll update you guys. But you can see cases spreading in the US, and the thing about this is that it's not necessarily it's not an extremely high death rate or terrible thing. The scary part is how fast it is spreading. Right here in the US, we only had cases pop up a week ago? It was not long at all. 2 weeks ago, something like that, we started to have our first cases, and now you can see it's already all over the country. And I think that although I don't think it's the end of the world, and I don't want to spread panic or anything, that's not the point of showing this, I think that it is probably a pretty good chance that this spreads to the rest of the country if we are not careful. It is something to think about it, and definitely something to wash your hands, keep away from other people if you can, right? Don't spread germs, all of that sort of stuff. It is a serious matter, and it's something it's not necessarily super dangerous for a young person per se. Kind of recovery rate for young people is very high, but it is something to think about for older people and people who have problems with their immune system. It is a very serious thing, as we probably all have people in our lives that are older or more susceptible to diseases. So it is something to think about. It is something to keep in mind, and so stay safe, wash your hands.